Thank you for tuning in to Teenie's Tarot Corner. Today on the program we're doing something a little bit different, and that is a reading that's focused on the Muppet Babies. So generally I would pull some cards, do some tarot readings, but I only have my Muppet runes to cast to do the readings today because I only had the Garf deck in my car, and so I'll just be using these. Now, similar to the Garfield readings, I'll just have you call in, and then I will do the reading while you just stay tuned into the program. Now, before we get started, I do need to get the table set up for a Muppet Babies reading. I call upon the wisdom of Muppet Babies and the eternal whimsy of Jim Henson to bring about clarity, guidance, and the eternal power of making your dreams come true. Muppet, Muppet, Muppet. Babies, babies, babies. Well, let's go ahead and open up the phone lines and see if we have any callers. Oh. Caller, you're on the air.
Hello, first time caller here. I was just wondering if the Muppet Babies could offer any guidance or advice to me, using the power of Jim Henson, of course. I really feel like I want to be like a hopeful and kind person, but I feel I can only ever do kind things for selfish reasons because I feel like I just do it because I want to feel good about it and not just to make other people feel good. And I struggle with like being angry a lot, I guess. And I know how the Muppets are, and I know Kermit the Frog can love his friends and do good while still getting annoyed and everything. And I guess I was just hoping for some guidance on how I could hope to be a better person, not only for myself, but for the people in my life that I care about as well. Thank you.
Well, sure. Okay. Well, that's a big question, and certainly something easier said than done. How do I be a better person? And you want to be there for the people in your life, but you also want to figure out how you can be more hopeful and a kind person and not feel as if you're guided by selfish intentions. So, with that in mind, I will go ahead and get my figurines out here. Alright. What we're working with today is a Miss Piggy, okay? Miss Piggy, just very confident, ruled by Venus. And then you've got your Gonzo, Aquarian, dreamy. And then, of course, as you mentioned, Kermit, ruled by Libra. And then you have your Fozzy Bear. So, Sagittarius, optimistic. So I'm going to go ahead and shake these up, okay? And we'll see where they land within the board here. So we've got our Fozzy house, our Gonzo house, and then the Kermit and adjacent. Across from that, the Miss Piggy. So notice the way in which these are lined up on the board in this orientation. And then we'll also see the way and orientation in which these figurines will land upon the board. Now my crystals here are partially to maybe amplify and connect more to the reading, but also the board is slightly bent, and it does help to keep the edges flattened. Now again, Miss Piggy over here in this quadrant. You've got your Gonzo, your Kermit over here, and then your Fozzy Bear. Okay. Alright, so go ahead and take a look at the television set. Set those intentions. How can you be a better person for the people in your life? Okay, so the first thing that I'm seeing here is that Fozzy is face up and feet are leading towards Fozzy Bear's quadrant here, okay? Now, because we have this orientation of Fozzy with the feet towards the Fozzy quadrant and the head more centralized, what I'm starting to pick up on here is that perhaps you want to lead yourself more towards an area of optimism. Now, Fozzy Bear, again, Sagittarius, can be considered more hopeful and optimistic. And that's probably why you called in today, because you are wanting to be more hopeful and wanting to be a kind person, but feeling like you're a little bit selfish. Now, this is leading to a change, and that's what this central area is. This is really you, right? So you've got Fozzy with the feet towards the Fozzy character here, and you can see that he's got this fun hat. So that kind of plays into the joy, right? Fozzy's joyful, but also a joker, okay? Now, do you feel as though that you can move more into a place where you can spread more joy without it being guided by selfish reasons? So what does that mean? Well, maybe just finding a way in which you can tell the loved ones in your life something as simple as paying them a compliment, giving them a phone call, perhaps even writing a heartfelt letter, and that will spread joy. Now within this joy, it could also have some humor, right? Because Fozzy, again, is a bit of a joker, okay? We've got the silly hat. But it doesn't mean that you need to start wearing a silly hat and just act silly, because ultimately, I believe that if you do that, then you're acting from a place of something that's not true to you. Sometimes Fozzy acts in such a way that he's a real joker because inside, internally, he can hide behind that humor. Now, is that something you feel like you're doing? I doubt it, because this isn't in the reverse orientation. If it was face down, I'd say we'd be looking at the shadow of Fozzy there. So just come from a place of good intentions with sharing joy, hope, and optimism with your friends and family. And just know that they love you for you. You don't have to hide behind a silly hat, right? Or goofy jokes. Your friends and family will just love you for who you are. So making sure that that humor and joy is not a mask for something else, okay? Moving along, I've got Gonzo over here. Gonzo, again, Aquarius, dreamy, very eccentric, but it is going towards your Kermit. So this is a good sign too, I think, because it's not all the way face down and it's not all the way face up, because you don't want your Gonzo all the way face up, because that just means you're in La La Land, right? You've got to be a little bit down to earth, but then open to some of that creativity, a little fantasy, right? So a little bit eccentric in there. The flip side of that is that you don't want to be so out in your own land that you're not able to make a connection. So I think a way to interpret this best is that when you are spending the time with friends, loved ones, all of those in your life, really being guided by being present, okay? Not off in La La Land, not totally in your own fantasy world, but connecting with what those friends and loved ones are saying. But then, you know, sharing a little bit of that eccentric side and being a little strange if that's how you are, because that again is something that's genuine to you, and having that come across in a genuine way to your friends and loved ones will be well received. Okay, so Gonzo, again going towards your Kermit quadrant here, also good because the head is towards Kermit, and Kermit can sometimes maybe be a little too harmonious. We'll get to Kermit in a second, but you don't want to be too matter of fact, too realistic. So having a little bit of that Gonzo whimsy is good. Miss Piggy. Now, Miss Piggy's got her roller skates on, her ruffly pink dress, her bow, her little pig nose, and exaggerated pig eyelashes. Now, this is also exciting because Miss Piggy is, first of all, in a standard orientation upright, but also pointing towards this Kermit quadrant here. And that's a good sign, because you don't want to have your Miss Piggy over here in the Miss Piggy quadrant. When that happens, you know, sometimes that could be a sign that perhaps you're, I don't want to say too self-centered, but maybe the focus is a little bit more self-inward versus being open to having that more thoughtful notions for others in your life. So that's a good sign. Over towards Kermit. Again, a good concentration over here. So Miss Piggy, again, confidence is the key here with Miss Piggy, because her planetary ruler is Venus. So because of that, she can be a little bit on the dramatic side, okay? And affection is really key for Miss Piggy. And so I think that makes sense, where it's perhaps showing affection to the loved ones in your lives, letting them know how you feel, and being genuine in those thoughts and interactions that you have. Now, with that love and affection, and again going towards Kermit here, sometimes with Miss Piggy, that same love and affection is wanted in return, which I think is pretty standard for most everyone. We want to give what we receive what we give, right? And so maybe this is where those feelings of being guided by selfishness might come in. So I don't think that you're self-absorbed in this. That's not what this is showing, because again, this is going towards Kermit, away from the Miss Piggy quadrant over here. And so I think as long as you are able to have confidence in yourself and avoid, you know, what the flip side of Miss Piggy is. If she was in reverse, I'd be a little bit concerned, because that would show me that, you know, selfishness is really the driving force in these relationships. That would be something that you want to maybe keep in mind, of not being too possessive. So perhaps some people want to hang out and some people want to spend time with you, but no need to feel as though they can't spend time with others as much, or maybe they're not spending enough time with you. You don't have to have those feelings. And again, it's not in the reverse, so that's good. And then sometimes, again, with Miss Piggy, I would be more concerned if it was in the reverse, but just being mindful of not overreacting. So, again, having a dramatic flair. Miss Piggy's in the upright orientation. So having that balanced with the Kermit quadrant here. Kermit being more level-headed, right? Just not feeling as though you need to overreact. Everything's keeping things a little bit more even keel, and that might help you along this journey of being more hopeful, right? Okay, now Kermit. Now this is very interesting because you've got Kermit head first, right, in this center that's representing you. So again, looking at this, you've got a little bit of that that optimism, that confidence, and then a whole lot of feeling a sense of balance and peace, right? And then, Gonzo's over here. It's something to work on with that creativity and a little bit of dreaminess. But it's mostly in here. And maybe what could be part of that, Kermit being in the face-up orientation away from Miss Piggy, is perhaps even a little too much of that reluctance, okay? Because sometimes with Kermit, folks might say that he's a bit of a reluctant leader, right? So Kermit being wise, wanting harmony, wanting to avoid conflict, but also perhaps being a little too people-pleasing. So as you're continuing this journey into finding ways of being hopeful, kindness, perhaps it's not being selfish so much as you being people-pleasing. So again, this is face up, which is good. If it was down, I would say you'd be full of indecision and internal stress, but it's not. It's face up. So that's a good sign to help you kind of be mindful of that people-pleasing attitude and conflict avoidance. And really taking the balance that you might have in that attitude of wanting to be a better person for the people in your life, which again in itself is a noble idea and cause. But taking that into consideration and not being too people-pleasing in your journey of being a better person for the people in your life. Okay, great. Well, I hope that helps to give you some guidance today, and really just some things to think about as you continue this journey. I think you're already on a good track, and you do have good intentions as well, and that's really part of it. So, thank you so much for calling in to Teenie's Tarot Corner today for a Muppet Babies reading. Now, if you would like a live Muppet Babies reading, I will be in Gatlinburg, Tennessee this upcoming Thursday from 10 to 11 a.m. in front of the old-timey dress-up photo booth. So do come see me there, or we'll see you again here on Cable Access 12. Thank you.